Hello and welcome to Platinum Politics. I'm your host Mace, and today we have Debate Night Legacy. This is essentially episode 0 of the Debate Night series. This debate was actually uploaded on the old Platinum Politics channel before I was ever even a part of the server. So this entire debate was new to me and was kind of interesting to edit. Without further ado, it's Debate Night.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum would be entirely unjustified.
The deadliest plane crash in more than 2 decades.
The rules were that you guys were going to fact check.
I have detractors? You, sir? I don't believe it.
Like tariffs have existed all the way back to ancient times. Do we have anything that shows this across history that, you know, we could maybe prove it or say this is correct based off of other data or other countries?
Yeah, I'd like to look at that.
Yeah.
Would anybody else like to speak? Would you like to speak, Neil or DK? We can get you up here so you can talk about it, put your opinion on.
DK? I'll send him a wave, invite him to speak if he wants. You know, if anyone has... Oh, Neil's willing. Can you bring him up here?
I invited him to speak if he would like to speak.
If anyone has links for other countries and tariffs and how they've affected other countries, I would like those.
Yeah, I actually had... Okay, actually, I have one here. I had one. TD Canada, Trump tariffs, PDF. TD Economics, Trump tariffs, a trade Canada does not want. This was actually written literally just a few weeks ago. I have it here. I just sent it for you guys to look at it. It says, on Trump's proposed 10 across-the-board tariff, the real GDP would fall around 2.4 points over 2 years relative to baseline projections. That would likely be a worst-case scenario, as models often underestimate the mitigating impacts of the wake of a shock. Canada's retaliation approach would likely be targeted and strategic, while behavioral adjustments on the part of producers and consumers would help cushion the blow. We are optimistic that Canada would ultimately avoid blanket tariffs. The likelihood that tariffs drag down the U.S. economy, disrupt supply chains, and stoke inflation are enough of a reason to forego tariffs on Canada. Ultimately, Trump, and most likely the use of tariffs as a bargaining chip to force Canada into concessions, come the USMCA renegotiations.
So this is a negotiation strategy. That's what tariffs really are. He's going to use them as a negotiation
DK,
strategy.
you can speak now.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, you guys know why tariffs, once they're put in place, they're like very hard to remove, right?
No,
I've actually never heard of that.
Yeah, so I looked into this the other day and I was like, interesting how like Joe Biden had kept a lot of the tariffs that Trump had put into place. And I was like, why? So I looked into it and I come to find out that once you put a tariff in place, it's extremely hard to remove those tariffs because you have to sit down with that country and actually negotiate from both angles, right? From both sides. And that's really, really hard to do once those tariffs have been put into place. Not saying that it's impossible, right, to remove, but it does take a lot of negotiating the trade on both sides of that.
Yeah, and honestly,
that's what I had found out about it because I was like, this is kind of interesting, right?
So interestingly enough, it actually seems like this is probably the main reason why Biden and the Democrats seem to be unpopular right now, is because these protectionist policies have remained in place for quite a while, and it has probably been affecting the American economy quite a bit. You can take a look at the chart I have here from the St. Louis, or not Statista, but if you look here, it seems like the American economic growth has not been doing as well.
Well, isn't it still a lineage? My problem is that I think a lot of Americans want things to go back to before COVID. Before 2008. Look, it's not going to go back, right? We're not going to bounce back from that.
Yeah, it's hard.
But how do these tariffs get us closer to bouncing back from it? That's what I want to see.
It doesn't. All of the proposals that I have read so far from Trump for what he wants to do, a lot of it, actually most of it, is inflationary. It would actually make the economy, like, people literally voted Donald Trump in because they were complaining about how their groceries went up, $150, $200, $300 more than what they were paying before COVID, right? And before all of the inflation and supply chain issues. And it's just like, it's really, really, really hard to do that. Very hard. Man.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it easily raising inflation, since when you impose a bunch of tariffs on other countries, what's going to happen is, since there's not as much money moving abroad and in, that the internal economy will stagnate. So the internal part of the market will stagnate, and it will require them to print more money in order to make up for it, which will rise the consumer price index. I could easily see that happening, and I think that's a reason why Joe Biden's economy right now, they did the best they could for recovering recovering from COVID, but, they couldn't do as much because of the tariffs that they had in place. And that's why Americans don't see their pockets being lined.
Yeah,
that's why Americans see...
Yeah, the problem is that we were telling them, right? We were saying, hey, look at the data. Look, inflation's down. Look, all this good stuff, all these good numbers and stuff, right? But people, if they don't feel it and they don't see it, they're only going to vote out the incumbency, which this seems like this is not just a trend in the United States. It's a trend that's been in like G7 countries where they're just voting out incumbencies, especially from like COVID time and inflation and supply chain issues. And even though it's not Joe Biden's fault and that, the administration tried their best, they were going to get blamed no matter who was running for president.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thoughts on it.
I think that's fair. My thing is that if we are talking about inflationary policies, then what's going to happen is, okay, Americans can no longer buy groceries. If what you guys are saying is true, then I expect that it won't be long before not only do they vote all these people out, but it won't be long before we'll protest in streets. We'll have people doing strikes.
I think a lot of these people voted against their own interests. I think a lot of these people are not educated on economic policies and on a lot of things because the Democrats did a shitty job of articulating that and telling people like what they were really voting for. And I think a lot of people are going to realize, holy shit, I voted for Donald Trump, but I actually made my life worse. And I think a lot of it has to do with lies and misinformation, and a lot of it wasn't being combated on the other side.
Fair enough. So I want to change up the argument a little bit. I want to go for, if we are talking about this, let's do devil's advocate, right? Why does Trump want these policies, and how do they benefit the American people in his mind? Applying good intentions here.
Yeah,
we're going to play devil's advocate.
I think that he thinks that his tariffs and other things that he wants to do is going to be good for the American people.
Well, why would he think that? I don't think Donald Trump's a complete idiot. I think that
I think he's been advised wrong, but he's going to realize that with with these people around him in the White House, he might get a different picture and might not do it as much, or might not be as high as what he's been saying hyperbolically.
Okay.
All right. So like more moderate.
Yeah. I think he'll be more moderate. I think a lot of the stuff, Palladium, and a lot of the stuff that he said, Dave, was like him just being on the campaign trail, man, and being hyperbolic and just running a fucking presidential campaign and just saying whatever. But I do think that once he's around economic advisors, people that do this 365, that are experts at this, are going to tell him that this would be devastating to the recovering economy, and that the people that actually voted for you, that complained about grocery prices and gas prices and everything that they voted for you for, that this would be a backfire on that and would actually devastate you and your administration.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you, DK. We're going to let Sarovu speak. He wants to put his opinion in.
Hello. Well, I think that Trump's tariffs will work because, well, one, we're in deep need of money.
Yeah.
And we have to, I've heard the what's the word? The looking for the word, the cons on tariffs, but a lot of people don't look at the pros.
Okay.
What are the pros?
Well, one of the pros is that it not only protects, but it will encourage domestic industry, and I think that's something that we need in this country right now. We need our domestic industry back, and it makes the imported goods more expensive, but it also encourages people in this country to buy our products, which in turn will help create jobs. It will generate revenue.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's my stance on it.
That's generally what tariffs do. So tariffs are meant to be put in place so that way the domestic manufacturing of the country who places them, enriches himself and brings back their manufacturing industry. But that doesn't actually work in reality. I have a few statistics here to bring it up. Always Alfarius would like to speak, so I'll let you speak too.
So I'm going to specify something. I am a history major with an economics minor and a Mandarin minor as well.
Awesome. So you should know about this topic.
And I'm also a person who believes that most economic theory is based off of absolutism, which is unfortunate, which means that I believe that hybrid economies fundamentally do not work. In this context, I believe that all tariffs, including interstate tariffs, are abominations. Generally speaking, low tariffs are acceptable to very low tariffs. We're talking modern rates are some goods with their modern rates it contributes to their price, especially in terms of the medical field, because a lot of chemical compounds that you require are effectively the tariff is applied to them several times because of the manufacturing process in obtaining the material, exporting material, and then getting it back, because we can't do anything simple in a globalist economy.
Why did he leave the stage?
I think he just wanted to say that, and he was done.
Okay.
So,
unless he accidentally left.
If you accidentally left, we can raise your hand again. Okay, he raised his hand again.
I'll let always Alfarius and Americanism speak together, because I think he might have got his thoughts together.
Yeah, Midnight, we see your hand. We'll you next.
Okay. Generally, the reason why like tariffs work in previous economic examples is because of the cost of transportation. The cost of transportation between countries was typically, and because of how ocean trade worked between the years 1700 and I believe it's kind of difficult to pin down when land-based trade became competitive with ocean and river-based trade. Generally, some theorists say it's 1880. I kind of disagree, but I'm not going to get into it. But with the development of of trucking, especially further automation in the transportation of industry within a single continent without needing a waterway, such as the Mississippi River, the Missouri River, Great Lakes. That's why a lot of cities are super large in those regions, is because of these waterways. But I digress. Shipping goods over land allows for domestic industries to become more competitive with international industries by expanding transportation opportunities. I always get this guy's name fucked up because I only learned about it from a textbook. I didn't go to a lecture about him. But the Keynes economic theory. His economic theories are one of the things he gets right absolutely is that transportation and the knowledge of goods are incredibly important to the reduction of domestic cost. Those two things, with further educating your own nation, will do a better job bringing more jobs to your nation, as well as providing larger economic growth. Literally everywhere in the entire world sees that economic success and education hand in hand. No counter examples, unless you're saying very specific fringe examples of nations whose economies are ran by idiots. And the second thing is that generally the transportation one is also very true with domestic infrastructural projects proving to be critical in the success of economic arrangements. One of the major reasons why the Austro-Hungarian Empire, even though it was complete dog shit for a lot of its economic ways, the Danube, like all of the richest parts of the empire, were all either along the Danube or along the Adriatic Sea. There's a very good reason for that. It's because that was the only areas where transportation was actually efficient and cheap.
Right. And do you think going forward the economic policy of tariffs would be effective at all? Like, do you think it could have any positive effects?
There are everything has a positive effect generally, but everything also has negative effects. Tariffs have, in my opinion, they would do more to hurt trade they would maybe support American trade over other nations. But the issue is that what you get is that we have a high inflation cost. Generally, a lot of goods that we get from international trade are from China and Mexico. Mexico actually recently overtook they kind of go back and forward between who we import the most stuff from economically. But those are our two largest trade partners in terms of imports. And if we start placing tariffs on those goods, what's going to happen is that there's a pretty wide gap already between the cost of made in America and made in Mexico or made in China. Unless you tax up to that gap is too large, in my opinion, to be solely filled by tariffs. You can it's just too large. All it will do is that it will increase perceived inflation. It takes money out of the economy, yes, but the cost of those goods will rise, effectively making it a increase in inflation. Unless you tax it to the point where somehow or you place tariffs on it. I'm saying that there's other alternatives to tariffs is my thing that are more efficient. That's kind of what my argument is. But if you place a tariff on a good, the floor price of getting that good goes up, and that's not good for domestic consumers. That's only good for manufacturers. Sure, it might make more jobs, but it probably won't generally because the demand for the good is going to remain the same. You're only changing the supply and where that supply comes from.
Okay, so we're gonna let Americanism speak now because I think he wanted to say something because he wanted to respond back. Maybe he got his sources or some of his stuff in order.
I actually kind of agree. I feel like we should use tariffs as a short-term thing, like a short-term solution and not a long-term solution. And maybe what Always a Fairy said, maybe whoever was in here last time was pointing out that whoever is in Trump's administration who runs the economic sector will convince Trump. I understand you want to put jobs and more money into the people's pockets. But if they're going to do tariffs, it has to, one, reduce trade deficits, and he needs to do it in a way where it can encourage more fair trade practices.
Okay.
And if he's going to use tariffs, he needs to use it to leverage trade negotiations, where he can use it as a bargaining tool, like he did in his first administration, to encourage trading partners to open up their markets or to remove tariffs on their own imports.
Okay.
Should we give Midnight a try?
Yeah, let's give Midnight a try. Thank you,
Right.
Americanism.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you guys all down to the audience.
All right. So I honestly, I think I need a baseline for Americanism, economic knowledge, like, because
I can invite him back up here. Would you
yeah,
like that?
no, I am honestly curious because I'd rather
Americanism?
I'd rather him come out learning something, because it seems like there is a misunderstanding of what like tariffs are traditionally used for compared to what we use them for today. We normally use them to sanction very specific goods that are generally bad for our economies, things that we like fentanyl, for example, things that we don't want here. Now,
Yeah, I only know like the base knowledge on tariffs. It's like, you know, what's the word, that when you put tariffs, it generates revenue, but it can also be like a bad. It can also.
But the thing is, it does generate
as well.
It specifically generates revenue for, as I don't quite remember his name, for the manufacturers. But you got to think about how all of the things that are in today's chain, right? If you were to break any of these chains because of tariff policies, one chemical, for example, like hydrogen peroxide, we don't even make that in large quantities in the United States. That's made mostly in Puerto Rico, but after the hurricane, it's moved mostly to Mexico. That is a prime example of a product that, if were to be tariffed, would increase the cost of everything from saline to medical equipment to, and that's exponential. That stuff trickles down. So if you're a conservative and you believe in trickle down economics or the trickle down theory, you would know that that would trickle down. All those damages would affect not only the manufacturer, it would affect the sales of those products, it'll affect the transportation of those products, it affects everything from top to bottom. This isn't like a lighthearted economic policy. This is like taking a sledgehammer and smashing the system and saying, okay, we'll pick up the pieces afterwards. This isn't like a reasonable solution, and it seems like that if you did vote for Trump because of the economy, it seems like you were misled pretty dramatically, because
that seems to be the majority of people who I've heard from my reading statistics, talking to people. That's what the majority of people seem to have voted on. Midnight, just to let you know.
Yeah. So like I would definitely look into, like, if can you even give me the definition of Pareto efficiency?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Okay, so you shouldn't vote. That plain and simple. You do not have the knowledge to even understand the most basic concepts of economy. You don't even have like the beginning stages to even talk about the subject, let alone even comprehend how it works.
I
don't even know what else to say.
Midnight, hold up.
Yeah.
Midnight, hold up. Americans, you have a comeback to that?
I mean, if he believes I shouldn't vote, then that's his opinion.
That's it?
It's just that if you feel like you have this moral responsibility to make our nation better, you should have the knowledge and have the research to actually make change and to better our lives. But you chose to just listen to what you were told to, not even understanding the most baseline knowledge of the subject, and we're just completely wrong.
Yeah, I can admit when I'm wrong.
Now, this is kind of like why I kind of stepped away from a lot of these Discord talks, because it's hard to even have this discussion if you might even have an entirely different idea of what a tariff is, because you're going off the Trump definition and not the actual geopolitical definition. Same thing with, you don't understand how trade markets work and how you're trying to constantly meet Pareto efficiency to make sure that both have the most beneficial action within a trade.
Americanus, do you have any response to any of this? Because I don't want you to just continue getting berated.
Yeah, we can both put you down, and I think maybe Aaron, if Aaron wants to speak. Aaron has some takes.
You can put me down. I mean,
all right, moving you down.
All right, nice,
moving you down.
nice chat. All right, we'll let Aaron get up here.
Yeah, so I don't really know much about it, which is why I want you guys to debate. But this seems more like a tariff dunking session. So I guess I'll say a few positives that seem to be overlooked. I mean, first of all, one of the main reasons he wants to do this is to have more negotiating power and bring more fair trade back to the United States, lower tariffs against us, use it as a negotiating factor. No one's really talking about that.
Eric, can I ask you one question towards that? Because this is where
Aaron wasn't done their point. Let's let finish.
We could stop there, but I mean, I wasn't. I was just trying to bring some more things to the positive side, or what the plan is, because it doesn't even really seem like anyone's really addressing the full plan. Like, obviously, if you put a shitload of tariffs on one country, shit from that country is going to be more expensive to the consumer. Like, obviously, like you're ignoring like the rest of the plan and how it impacts the country to just dunk on it.
Yeah.
Okay. How does it? What's the rest of the plan? Tell me, because I'm actually curious. To be fair,
again, it's to use as a negotiating tactic, which could also lower tariffs against us, so that helps. What it would also do is it brings money in, so that lowers taxes. That's a part of the plan, to lower taxes with the tariffs instead. Then you have other things that aren't related to the economy that are also very important. Well, actually, hold on, I have one more for the economy. It's obviously to incentivize bringing things back to America, which will increase jobs and opportunities here, and it's better to have a society, and that might lag. I mean, I hear you, like, prices might go up before that really kicks in, but the whole point is it's better for a country to have more people employed, more people doing well, than more people poor, more people needing welfare but getting cheap shit from an entirely different country, which also brings national security is a huge reason for this. It's obviously in a country's best interest to be as self-sufficient as possible, because what if a country just puts a ridiculous tariff over some stupid thing, or we have another COVID? We saw in COVID, when the trade slowed down, we had a lot of issues. We found out a lot, and especially because it was a medical thing, and a bunch of our medical supplies all come from China. We couldn't even get them. We had shortages. That's a problem. National security, bringing things back to the country is good for national security, as well as, you could look at things like climate change. China doesn't give a shit. They, throw trash in the ocean and burn coal. We use natural gas and have a lot of regulations. So if the climate change is an interest to you, it also has a huge benefit to climate change, and in parallel to that, a moral reason of things like climate change, if you hold to that, as well as, we have a huge portion of our economy that's reliant on essentially slave labor. And so there's, like I said, there's economic things you guys aren't addressing. There's like, national security, morality, climate change things that you could argue.
The negotiation piece, because I brought that up earlier as well. And my thing is, right now, I'm having a hard time finding countries that have levied tariffs against the United States that we are going to negotiate to bring down, other than China. And China's was the direct result of Trump and his policies that started a trade war with China. So
I imagine it will be mostly just China.
Yeah, so I feel like the tariffs. My problem about it is that it says on his platform. Just to be fair, like this is where I'm having my struggle, is that on his platform it says unilateral tariffs for all countries, and you have Australia saying, hey, don't raise tariffs on Australia because that would be bad for both of us, right? All these countries seem to be worried about tariffs, but it seems like it's tariffs for China. So why on his platform is he talking about unilateral tariffs? Like, why not just say, I'm going to increase tariffs on China and try to destroy Chinese industry as much as I possibly can?
Right. Well, I guess we'll see if he does other countries, but you're right. I mean, he hasn't really put out any numbers, and we also don't know, because it is really intended to be sort of a negotiation tool. There's sort of an unpredictability on how that goes, and how the other countries respond. So who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Like, I don't want to do hypotheticals, because people are immediately going to jump to like World War III, and I don't think tariffs are necessarily going to have to lead to World War III. But I do think that, like, I don't like the idea of this being the main economic policy and it being so thin. Like, I'm okay with him saying tariffs. I just want more information on how he thinks it's going to affect it. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you, but I imagine that's just kind of a typical, it is a typical campaigning strategy where you don't want to get too granular or specific for a lot of reasons. Things you'll be held up to, and also more criticism. So you're right. I mean, there's a lot of ambiguity. Who knows what'll happen?
My thing is, it's your second term. Time to get all the granulars. Time to do all the details, because you're not coming back anyways.
Yeah. All right. Let's let Alfarius get back up here.
Fair enough.
And Ontos.
Are they going to argue with me, or should I leave?
No,
I was just
sorry. I was going to say, unless that's his plan. His plan is to actually stay here forever.
Yeah, no, guys, we're gonna have this debate for eternity, because Lord knows that someone actually has to have it. But I was just gonna say that in this situation, I doubt that tariffs would allow us to compete internationally better, but rather just domestically better. And what I mean by that is that we would. I mean, ideally, we would want to reduce the trade deficit. opposite, right? Like that's what we want. And it would chip away at that, but ideally what a more competitive market would do are hypothetically, of course, because we don't see it until it happens, which is the issue with theory. And I should mention that I'm a minor in it, so I'm not exactly like an economic professor, guys. But what I am saying is that the main advantages I would see in tariffs, if we are saying that they would in fact make people buy more American-made products in America. I mean, they're not going to be sold, or a lot of the products that we would be making here would not be sold outside of the US. We would just be buying them on ourselves because they still would be too expensive compared to our international competitors. And thus they would be creating jobs. And yeah, that's great. But we have a really robust job market. Yeah, but an issue that we are facing, according to some people, and I haven't verified these studies, but is that we have a really good job market, but the issue isn't getting a job, it's that people are working a lot of jobs. And of course there's the getting job part, but I've seen, we're in a time where AI is kind of shaking up a lot of things, and it's going to be really difficult to predict what AI does to the job market itself. That's going to be the most volatile part of the economy.
Would anybody else like to speak or come up here? So I have some strong opinions on this. I posted about how I have a TD Economics paper here about how Trump's plan will severely affect Canada. Bradefi, I invited you up here. If you'd like to speak, you can speak, because it seems to me that Trump's policies are just going to be extremely negative, and I was looking for people who would be able to argue against that to see if people could argue for Trump. Go for it.
I think risk setting is probably a power of the government. If we think about the Fed setting the interest rates, it seems like there is a compelling state interest in setting the level of risk taking of the economy, and it seems like
can you explain
one aspect of that
for the audience? I'm sorry, you kind of went into risk taking, and that's a new term for this conversation. Just please describe that term, just so we're all clear on the same page.
Sure. Generally, when you're giving an opening statement, you get through it, but yeah, sure. The degree to which companies are willing to leverage their assets in opportunities that have high implied volatility. And by that, I mean that while they might on average be net positive or plus EV, there's a chance of them capitalizing that, tips it.
Thank you, Fallman. Fallman, Neil deGrasse Tyson just posted the Reciprocal Trade Act 2019-2020 based off of Trump's, I think, original term, or is this actually Biden's house? 2019. So I guess it's, Trump's first term. So everyone, here's his policy back when he was first president. So maybe it will be similar to that policy. All right. Well, go on. Reciprocal, you were talking about risk and things like that. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a price to risk. There's a reason why people buy insurance. Even if a particular asset has a higher ROI, you may not go for it if its risk ratio is too high, if it has too much volatility. And it seems like there is a risk of trade relationships falling apart, of anything imported going away. And it seems like the price on that risk is something that the government could do to make our economy a little bit more robust, which is probably one of their powers, given the precedent of the Fed, the risk-free interest rate, which largely accomplishes similar things. So I guess in some sense, it's just an extra knob that you could just give to the government to control the economy and support the mandate. I don't know. I'm kind of out of breath. I'm sorry.
No worries about it. But it seems to me here that it just affects competition horrendously internationally, and it affects people horrendously, especially the trade with Canada and trade with other countries here. It says here, I have a table, bilateral trade in goods in 2023 in billions of US dollars. It says the region that has the most to lose on tariffs suggested by Trump is the U.S. itself. From a trade and production point of view, the tariffs will not only decrease U.S. imports, but will also decrease U.S. exports by more. The other countries in this analysis will also see a decrease in their international trade, but for most of them, the imports will be somewhat more effective than the exports. While the simulated increase of tariffs will have a bit effect on Chinese trade, the decrease will be more marginal for other countries. So it shows here that the Trump administration has severely affected U.S. GDP growth in these sectors and the trade deficit.
I mean, I don't think anyone would say that tariffs increase your GDP in the short term, but I think people are just willing to take this momentary decrease in GDP to increase the economic robustness of the U.S. Because, the industries that are going to be the most affected are those that are most dependent on this importing from foreign countries, especially that are hostile to us.
Yeah.
And, those just might be the most risky industries, and it might be better to just pay a small cost now rather than have catastrophic failure in the future. For instance, if you had a trade war. So I don't know, it just seems like what essentially what's happening is the government is forcing their preferences for risk on the companies. The companies are more risky, probably because outcomes for for company filling aren't as bad as outcomes for workers losing their jobs. And so I don't know. It doesn't seem that reasonable. It doesn't seem that unreasonable. It's also not unprecedented.
I mean, I think it is because I think I have a statistic here. Let me pull it up. But it says here that when you adjust for income inequality, that during Trump's presidency, it affected the HDI like quite a lot. And I mean, the HDI is very important. So let me get that for you. Oh, DK, would you like to come up and speak then about this stuff? Because you said that you have a few takes here, so I'll let you come up and speak about it.
What am I speaking about again? What?
The stuff you were commenting in the chat.
Yeah. I read up on a few sources where economists were basically saying that the Trump's 2017 tax cuts also caused like massive inflation when everything hit with COVID because of the 4 years that the economy, or 3 years rather, that the economy was red hot and everything was doing well. Trump was doing massive like deficit spending, which I didn't really understand why he did that and why he was doing that. It was kind of weird actually.
Okay.
But yeah, that caused things to basically come to a collide when COVID went down and caused inflation and supply chain issues to be even worse than what they were.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen here that, the vast majority of the sources that I'm reading on right now are saying that tariffs don't just affect it short term, but it affects it long term. And the reason why the Joe Biden administration is stagnating so badly is because of these tariffs that were hard to implement and that they're not benefiting the economy in any way.
I can use that. Also, how does the tax cuts relate, or is this just like a broader Trump check going on right now?
That was just a broader thing that I had mentioned.
Also, is the thing you're saying about HDI like correlational or causal?
It looks like it's both.
What do you mean by that?
Because we know that America has one of the highest levels of income inequality in the world, and it's like a ticking time bomb essentially on its population.
So
what
cause it,
what
but it
study
also
are
makes
looking
it
at?
work.
I'm not saying it's not plausibly causal, but like, what are you looking at that's giving you that impression?
Well, I mean, a bunch of charts about how it's worse.
You posted
So you're looking at it's so correlational. It's not causal.
I mean, yeah.
Well, who cares? Like, so much was going on during that time period. I mean, hell, even COVID happened. Like, if you want to make a claim here, it seems like you'd want like actual causal evidence, which may exist, but absent that, I think it's completely misleading to. I mean, you can make any story with the correlations you want. On the other hand, like you could have 100% correlation, but 0% causal power.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people don't know how we got here. I think that's also.
What do you mean by that? Got where?
Like how we got to inflation, supply chain issues, all that stuff that happened, right? I don't think that people like really quite.
Well, I mean, I think most people know the answer, and that's COVID.
Yeah, you would think that most people know that answer, right?
No, I mean, do you have like a survey of random people and like what they think?
Okay, yeah. Let me get it for you though. I need to find a chart for it.
But yeah, I mean, imagine like companies have like way more leverage when it comes to like employee relations, and so they're willing to take on huge risks that might like severely hurt the workers. Like say China like bans the import of all of the steel or the export. Like that'd be catastrophic for all the American industry, and all the workers would lose their jobs, and it'd be terrible. But people who run the companies probably wouldn't be that affected, and so they're probably willing to like heavily rely on China, even though it's risky, because they're not as affected by the negative outcomes. So they can just hyper focus on like the expected value. But I think given the risk like disproportionately affects the workers, it probably is right for the government to rein in on the degree to which corporations can engage in unreasonable risk-seeking behavior. And it seems like tariffs are one way to do that with respect to the inherent risk of relying on foreign countries to produce stuff, especially those who are adversarial to you, like China.
Yeah, but the problem is that.
Did you disagree with anything I just said?
Yeah.
Okay. Which part?
The problem is that who's paying the majority of the tariffs, the countries or the companies?
I mean, obviously it affects the economy, which means at the end of the day, the person most affected is going to be the worker. But it's like a slight cause to the workers. Hold on, let me finish. It's like a slight hurt to the workers now, on average, to prevent a catastrophic hurt to the workers later. And that's just what it means to be robust and resilient. Like when a police officer goes out into the field with like Kevlar, it makes them heavier, makes it hard to walk around, but it prevents the catastrophic outcome of them dying from a bullet. It makes it less likely.
I don't think.
So when you have just one more thing I want to add before I leave.
Go ahead, good.
Yeah, so when you have a company that's a U.S. company that's importing, like take Apple, for example, right? If there's a tariff, a very, very high tariff, right, on those imports coming in, right, the company actually pays those tariffs, and those tariffs are going to be passed down to the consumers, right?
I don't disagree I don't disagree that it's trickle down, but...
Wait, okay, can you let DK
the people who reap the...
I don't believe DK finished their point there. I'm moderating.
Yeah, so I think that like the consumers ultimately, and like you said, the employees are definitely going to suffer. And yeah, obviously we don't want that to happen. I just believe that Donald Trump is going to talk with his economic advisors, and he's going to be told, hey, if you do this, this is going to be detrimental to the people who voted for you because of gas prices and prices at the grocery food store, right? And I think that would be detrimental. And I think he would probably listen and would ease up on the type of tariffs that he's like proposing or have been proposing. So that's what my
as sure, but insofar as do tariffs work or do they not work? I don't. That seems kind of independent. And like I don't know.
I've seen economists say that they're incredibly bad. I've seen some people that are economists write things and say that they're good. I think that it's like a up or down thing depending on what way that you're trying to use tariffs. Right? Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, I'm just moderating right now.
Okay, so Alfarius wanted to speak, so I'll let them speak.
Can I respond to that, or do you want him to go first?
Yeah. Go, respond to that. Let's let her respond to that.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's not like the degree to which U.S. companies rely on foreign imports probably is largely not homogenous. There probably is a lot of variation there, and it probably makes sense that we reward the companies that don't rely on them because those imports are inherently risky. There's always a chance that China and blocks trade, stops the export. That would hurt us more than it hurt them. And I think having this heavy reliance on all these foreign powers, many of whom aren't friendly to us, just seems irresponsible. And it seems like companies are irresponsible all the time. And we probably should reward the companies that are more responsible. And we probably should slightly punish those that are less responsible. And it will probably hurt the workers a little bit, maybe even a lot of it. But it's not going to be nearly as bad as a catastrophic failure from like a trade war. And so it's probably better that we pay the cost now to sort of inoculate us from a greater harm in the future. I don't know.
Damn.
Okay.
All right.
Neil, would you like to argue? I know. DK, yeah, you wanted to respond to that.
Yep.
No, I'm good. I'm out.
Neil, would you like to argue? Because pretty good, some other shit.
Neil seems to be keeping his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Does anyone actually have any arguments other than just like gesturing at correlations and
how does
citing,
I'm curious because when I see, I mean, how do you like? I have a bunch of statistics here and studies that I can send about how tariffs are genuinely like harmful to the economy. Like
you planned this event, did you not? Like surely you should have like taken like 5-10 minutes of effort just to pull them up first. No,
I did.
Why haven't I seen a single number?
Because I was screen sharing them to the audience beforehand.
What's a relevant figure?
He's been screen sharing them. He has brought up stats. He has brought up graphs. I have a question.
Well, the question is, do these stats or graphs advance a theory?
Okay, so yes, I would say that here's the
again, it's a correlation. Again, we're just looking at the time series and going, oh, it increased here. Like, really?
I mean, no, I have two studies I have from...
I was just looking at the thing you posted just now, the real GDP growth by quarter.
No, but if you look at the two ones before that by TD and Commerce Collegium...
Which one do you want me to look at? I'll look at one of them. Pick one.
I would look at TD because we were talking about how foreign trade would affect other countries.
I'm on the TD page. There are 6 pages in this PDF. Which one should I be on?
I was looking at the second page about how it affects Canada primarily. About how it says here specifically the 10% tariff would be a hard hit to Canada.
Well, hard hit is like a headline. It's a header. What's the actual stat here that you think is probative?
It says here, while a Trump 20% tariff has subsequently been floated by Trump, we assume he sticks with his original proposal of a 10% tariff on all Canadian goods and services exports. Put another way, Canada does not receive an exemption, and Canada would retaliate with all tariffs on U.S. imports to a significant magnitude. So
similar magnitude.
Similar magnitude.
You didn't read that at all correctly. It said Canada retaliates with tariffs on U.S. imports of a similar magnitude.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll read the next one too because it seems like maybe you need help. Tariffs are phased in beginning early 2025 and removed by 2027.
I'm going to mute you in a second. Can you pull it up? Pause for a second. All right. I want to ask a question here for it. You want a substantive argument of why it would be bad. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think it is a good idea to leverage tariffs on Canada in the first place, who are our closest ally in a neighboring country, by the way, where we cross borders, cross traffic?
Are you the moderator?
Yes.
Yeah, I was moderating.
And you're attempting to interject to burden shift when this person hasn't even made their claim?
No, I'm asking
That's embarrassing. That's shameful.
I'm asking you.
You should be sad about yourself.
Okay, I can just mute you and be done. Do you want to insult you? I'm asking you for the sake of this debate, do you agree with the tariffs on Canada in the first place before you even make the argument that you're...
No, I'm not. I have no commitment to the idea of tariffs on Canada in general. I would just care about the outcomes.
Okay, so you're looking at the outcomes. That's fine.
This is how policy discussion works, Gamer.
If you're going... I want to know what you were looking for. If you were arguing that tariffs on Canada were necessary or not necessary, you're just looking at the outcomes.
No, Polonium has the pro here. That means he has to, or she has to make the argument, right? And then I will refute it or agree with it. No argument has been made, so I have nothing to say. Right now, I'm in listening mode.
Yeah, I was going to finish.
It's okay to be slow.
I was gonna finish. So what I was gonna say here is that it says here that under chart 3 and under the first header, the highlight of it, it says that the real GDP would fall around 2.4 points over 2 years relative to the baseline projections. Now, the reason I brought
Which page is that? Sorry,
that's the highlight on the first page. So the reason why I brought this up...
Hold on, to be clear, what were you trying to get me to read on page 2 just before we move on?
It was talking about chart 3 and reference about how it would be negative on the GDP growth under Trump's tariffs and what the baseline forecast of the GDP growth would be.
I'm looking at chart 3. What am I supposed to see?
We're talking about how Trump's tariffs would negatively affect people, and it says the forecast here would negatively affect the GDP growth of Canada. Now, the reason I brought up this chart in specific was because this is in relation to affecting other countries. So we were talking about the effect of other countries on Trump's tariffs. Now we can get back to.
I'm happy to. No, let's engage with Canada. Let's do it.
Okay.
So you're seeing like in real terms a 0.5 difference. Like, can you speak to like why a 0.5 difference is like for our purposes significant, or like why I should care? Like even like I'm just gonna assume the worst case. I'm happy to grant like this would happen, but like why should I care?
Well, I mean, especially now in this economy, about how it would sour trade relations with Canada, which already happened, and not to mention under this economy, people are being affected pretty horribly, and lowering the growth would be pretty terrible. I mean, especially in this consideration.
You understand that some differences aren't significant, right?
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm saying that they are significant.
Sure, but like,
excuse me, you're gonna let him finish. You're gonna let him finish.
He's done. No, he's done.
No, you actually interrupted him mid-speech. I just saw it.
But he's done at this point.
Excuse me. You're gonna let people finish their statements. All right, that's how we're gonna have it. We're gonna have it organized. You're gonna let people finish their statements. Polonium, please finish your statement.
Well, what I was gonna say is that, like DK and I were discussing earlier before you joined, is that it seems to be that it negatively affects trade growth in general, because when you put a tariff in, it is hard to get the tariff out. So that GDP growth might not just be for this quarter, but it can be for the other quarters. And that stagnation can, especially now with the increasing wealth gap, if you look at the United States, it can be very detrimental to the workers at hand. And it is reducing the power and the purchasing ability of the populace. That's what the argument was.
Wait, hold on. We're looking at a derivative of a derivative, right? We're looking at 0.5 as like the deceleration here. You say it's significant, it's traumatic, it's bad, but why? Can you demonstrate that?
A 0.5 reduction is bad. Didn't I just demonstrate that? Wait, what are you talking about?
No, you said there's a wealth gap in the U.S., therefore a 0.5 reduction in the derivative of Canada's GDP is bad. Like, what outcome would this induce that I should feel about and that should animate me to think differently?
Higher income inequality, lower ability to purchase things. So
Wait, where's your evidence for that? What? Where's your evidence that this like trade policy would induce greater differences in income, or like would increase the Gini coefficient of Canada? How does that follow at all? Generally, as countries get more economically developed and more wealthy, the Gini coefficient actually increases. And so if this were to do anything, it'd probably decrease the wealth gap in Canada, that is.
When you raise GDP, so here's the thing, when you lower GDP growth and you lower the individual ability of the worker to make money.
To be clear, the other thing is we haven't even established that this difference is significant. Like if it's down by 0.000001, you'd probably agree that it's superfluous. You tell me it's down by 0.5 at worst. I don't know what that means, or why I should even care about that.
Well,
you know either.
I mean, if you're paying attention to my entire discussion, you would have known, because what I said here is that...
I've been paying very good attention, but yeah.
Look at this. So what I said earlier is that in the long run, when you put tariffs in, it is hard to get tariffs out, because you actually have to enter into negotiations with the other countries and renegotiate those policies. My point of what I'm arguing is especially in this American climate as it is right now, increasing the Gini coefficient, which, by the way, this would also affect America too, because I have statistics for that as well. I have 3 more statistics.
This thing
I can bring up.
Demonstrated?
No, I'm talking about Canada. I'm talking about Canada. I'm talking about Canada. No, it's okay. It's okay. We're having a discussion. I brought up Canada specifically for the point of foreign trade. Now, I've already pointed out that this is bad. The point that I was making was that when you put these trade tariffs in, they will affect the countries that they have in the long term. And especially now, when you have a Gini coefficient that is comparable to, medieval France and stuff like that, that it is very, I mean, I don't know, sure, but I feel like you're just trying to do red herrings when you cut me off and say...
I just said a single no, because it's not correct, but it's not substantive in many ways, so just keep going.
The point of what I'm saying is that when you keep increasing the Gini coefficient of America and of Canada, that especially nowadays, when it's very, very, very high, that it would be not great in the long run.
Is that, relatively speaking, it's not as high as you think. It's higher in many European countries insofar as wealth distribution, but I don't think this is central to your argument, so I don't really care. You told me that I should feel compelled by this potential 0.5 decrease in the derivative of Canada's GDP. You said it's really bad. Why? Like, why is this at all significant? Like, if you told me that like doing this one action would make me 0.00001% more likely to die, I'd probably just not give a shit. Like, why should I care about this alleged or suspected decrease? Like, how does it affect the people of Canada? How badly does it affect them? Like, I don't know, gamer.
I mean, you can look at the GDP growth in comparison to the Human Development Index.
I know the nominal number. I'm looking at it right now, but just what would this do? Like, speak to it. Make the case that this is bad.
Make the case that lowering the GDP of a country is bad. I don't know what to tell you there. That's like trying,
in a significant
that's
way.
That's like trying to get me to define the word stop. You can't define the word stop without using the word stop.
A super small decrease in GDP really doesn't matter. right? What you need to demonstrate is this is bad in the way that it is like not insignificant, right?
I
It is
explained
more
it.
than
You
just made it. You just repeat. You don't make arguments. You just repeat claims. Like I haven't heard a single thing from you. Like just repeat it if you did. Maybe I misheard, or maybe I didn't hear. But like, why is this 0.5 decrease and the derivative of Canada's GDP bad? Why? Like, what does it actually do to the people on the ground, the workers that I care about?
So okay, I'll repeat it. So what I said here is that when it comes to the economy, when it comes to GDP growth, okay, this would negatively affect the workers at hand. They do not have as much money. They do not have as much trading ability. They do not have as much individual purchasing power. Therefore, over time, you keep doing these policies to increase tariffs on other countries and in making it harder for people to go to other countries and trade with other countries and bring in goods, bring in services. It is in aggregate lowering the ability to have purchasing power. It is making the Gini coefficient worse. And I mean, if you look at it, if you look at income inequality, right? If you look at HDI that is related to income inequality, which is America is pretty bad on that. Sorry, I got distracted with another message. But if you look at the HDI metric that new economists are using and that the UN is pushing for, which is income adjusted human development index, that America is not doing so well in that, and that it is getting worse. What I'm saying is that one second. No, we are, because I just explained that before. I said that Canada, when we're specifically talking about Canada, this was relation into foreign policy, and that was what the question was. So what I'm trying to say here is that when it comes to the effect on the workers on the ground, that these little blows over time are affecting workers significantly, and there's a reason why people voted for Trump, and there's a reason why people did that. Yeah, you go ahead now.
Sure. I mean, so here's what you said. You said that when it comes to GDP growth, this quote unquote would negatively affect workers at hand. You said, quote, they do not have as much money. You haven't demonstrated that. You said, quote, they do not have as much trading ability, end quote. You didn't demonstrate that either. You said, quote, they do not have as much individual purchasing power. You also didn't demonstrate that. You also said, if you keep doing these policies, blah 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 blah. I wrote this down, by the way. It's harder for other blah blah blah. You were just rambling. You said in aggregate this would lower the ability to have purchasing power. You also didn't demonstrate that. You said it was making the Gini coefficient worse. I don't know if you're talking about income or wealth, but you in any case didn't demonstrate that either. And then finally you said you were talking about income inequality and HDI, and you said that it was bad in America, which perhaps is true.
We got
whether or not this would improve the situation or disimprove the situation in Canada, you haven't demonstrated that. Like all you do is you just stack claims.
Right.
I don't think you provided a single argument.
Moderator here, and excuse me. No, we have 3 minutes left. All right, so you need to both of you need to make closing arguments.
I mean, yeah, you asked me the question. I don't want to say. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna look for it.
You always go first.
Yeah, so that makes sense. But I'll get you the statistics for it after. But for stuff that I've been reading on this stuff, but basically,
also to respond to Josie, like I've been listening so well, I can repeat what he said back to him. I've been taking notes. I don't agree at all. But
okay, excuse me. Start making closing arguments. We should be doing closing arguments, no interruptions.
So yeah, what I was gonna say is that the tariffs that are going to be imposed are going to negatively impact U.S. farmers. They're going to negatively impact U.S. workers. They're going to negatively impact the ability to trade with other countries, and that is going to seriously affect people in America. That's basically the gist of my argument. I'm not going to make it as long as that because I want to give you your ability to finish. You got 1 minute.
Sure. I don't know. There's not much to respond to. Like, as far as I can tell, the person I was talking to didn't really bring up any arguments or make any points. It sounds like they had a lot of claims, but they never cited any actual relevant data. They never advanced the theory. I mean, I guess I can just like enumerate all the like baseless claims they've made and how they haven't demonstrated any of them. Perhaps that would be a good use of time.
I mean, sure, but you have like how many seconds left? Actually,
I mean, you said tariffs would negatively impact U.S. farmers. Where's your proof of that? I didn't see it. Did anyone else in this call see it?
U.S. agricultural advisor.
It's my closing statement. Why are you interrupting me? What the fuck? Shut up. They will negatively. You said tariffs will negatively impact U.S. workers. Didn't demonstrate that. So that tariffs will negatively affect the ability of people to trade with other countries. That's just the nature of tariffs.
You asked the question about the farmer.
Hold on. No, it's a closing statement, dude. Shut up.
Closing statement. Let them finish.
You're the worst moderator ever, dude. You also said that this would seriously impact people in America and Canada. Didn't demonstrate that. You said that this GDP decrease in Canada is bad. Why? You said this GDP decrease in Canada would cause, sorry, not even a GDP decrease, a decrease in the derivative of GDP, or the derivative of GDP of Canada. You said it would cause immeasurable harm to the workers. Why? How? Didn't demonstrate that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like you just have a million claims and you've done zero research. Like it's a little bit sad. You said it would increase the wealth inequality in Canada or the income inequality in Canada. Didn't demonstrate that. You said that it would hurt individual purchasing power. Didn't demonstrate that in Canada. Like I don't know. You just stack claims. I don't think you've done a little bit of research. I guess I'm a little bit sad if we didn't have a little bit more time, but I doubt you'd be able to back up a single thing anything you've said. I think you just believe these things, but you just made them up. You pulled them out of your ass. Like the idea that wealth Gini would increase because of a decrease in the acceleration of GDP in Canada, like that's a really difficult claim to make that would need a lot of studying and research. It's like a really hard thing to causally tease out, and you just like hand wave say it.
So
and I imagine in a different discussion where you were arguing the other position, you would just hand wave it the other way. I think you're baseless. You don't have any background, any education, and you just like make shit up. And I think it's a little bit sad. And I think the moderator also sucks. Very, very biased, very unfair. But anyway, gamers, I think that was pretty cool.
I mean, we can keep going if you want, because I can have some sources to bring up.
All right, that was your minute. You got your closing statement.
I mean, I was saying that we could continue this because it would be interesting. I mean,
okay.
I want to. Neil is offering to speak. He's
Neil's
got a massive.
offering to speak. So
let's let Neil go against you, Radelphi. I want to see what happens.
Hi, Neil.
Okay.
Who are you?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, well, I just think the Polonium just needs to get his sources together to kind of like ad hominem, and that he doesn't have anything is kind of places.
I mean, I repeated all the claims that he made that he didn't substantiate. I wrote them down. Do you disagree with anything I just said? Like in particular, or do you just like not like the vibes? Because I understand not liking the vibes, but that's not substantive.
I figured if tariffs are increasing the prices of stuff, or if they're decreasing the amount of money going through, it could negatively impact that. Granted, he can do a better way of going about that.
Wait, so plausibly could? That's the best he has. Like he scheduled this event.
No, you're going to let people finish.
I'm still talking here, buddy.
Well, we're not in a closing, right? He's just open dialogue.
I would like you.
Right, but I could still finish my statement here.
Go ahead.
You could give him a little bit more grace. And the thorough, obviously, if you were to give it a little more grace and a little bit more follow through with it, the thread's there, and you could.
I mean, I agree. Maybe I could have been nicer. I agree.
Yeah.
Like, to respond to DK, like, I didn't know the topic until I saw it, like, 5 minutes ago. Actually, when I got here 20 minutes ago. I had no idea what it was going to be. Polonium presumably knew the topic a while in advance, had weeks to prepare, a long time.
2 days.
It is the case, DK, that I just did come in here not even knowing what the topic was. But it seems like I've actually been able to present a coherent argument that, like, tariffs are reasonable intervention for a government to do to control the risk-seeking behavior of an economy and also to inoculate the economy to further damages from trade wars. I think that's a really solid point. I think that should be compelling. And then everything I've heard from this guy is just like making up shit, stuff that he can't demonstrate, stuff that he just like pulled out of his ass. And then like I don't know. And then we get the Neil dude who's like, you're not being nice. Like maybe, but like at the end of the day, like I don't even know what the point of being here is if there's like nothing to engage with. If it's just all like I made this up. Because like if we want to do like a fantasy debate impromptu, that's just like improv. But like this is a very boring topic to improv on. I'd rather talk about anything else. I don't know.
It's called not being charitable. I mean,
I've been incredibly charitable. I've gone to his sources. I've asked him to read it. I've gone through multiple pages on this PDF. I read 2 pages of the PDF he sent.
You know what? Would you
like how many pages of the PDF?
6 pages.
Okay.
Dude, he sent a PDF that he didn't even read, and I read it just because I wanted to maybe tease out if there was anything there of note. I put in more effort than he did, so please don't make these accusations of like that I'm not being charitable or not putting in effort. I've been writing down what he's been saying. Like at the end of the day, I've been incredibly patient and respectful, so I just don't agree.
Would you like to?
I would disagree with the respectful.
What have I done that's disrespectful at all?
Insulted his intelligence and education.
When did I insult his intelligence ever?
Like literally like 2 minutes ago.
What did I say?
You called him uneducated.
Wait. Do you think someone can be uneducated on tariffs while still being an intelligent person?
Yeah, I don't think he.
Wait, do you disagree with what I just said?
Neil.
Because you're telling me that I'm calling him stupid. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying he hasn't researched.
I know what I heard. I'm not being.
Ralphie,
I'm not being
I sent you a clip of what I said, like from Shadowplay. Would that change your mind?
Yeah, I'm gonna mute in 5 seconds. If you guys don't be quiet. Ralphie, would you like to debate me instead? I'll pass matter order over to Polonium, and I can debate you on these tariffs right now, based off of what Polonium sent. Would that be interesting?
And by the way, I'm gonna send my sources to substantiate all the claims they made.
You also need to clarify the claims because your claims are very nebulous.
Ralphie, would you like to debate me on this topic?
David, it sounds like we got off on the wrong foot. What's up?
Nothing's on the wrong foot here. I'm just asking if you would like to debate me instead on this topic, because you seem to be knowledgeable about this topic, and you're saying that you're more knowledgeable than Polonium, which is fine.
I didn't even make that claim. Well, I mean, I guess to some extent I've read a little bit. I've read like maybe 5 news articles, some blog posts, some analysis from some economists, but this isn't my field.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I'm like a luminary here, but it seems like just doing like 10 minutes of reading puts you ahead of the crowd, I guess.
Well, I think that one of the things we talked about earlier, if you came in earlier, one of the things we were discussing earlier was the fact that it seems like a lot of people don't seem to know anything about tariffs. Now, we had plans to have a debate.
Why does that matter?
Why does it matter? Because we had tried to find someone to defend tariffs, and we actually struggled to find someone to defend it. Part of the conversation here was trying to find a Republican or Trump supporter that defended tariffs, and we could not find one. We've been trying all that.
I mean, that's not surprising, but like...
So my question to you is, if you want to make an argument of why tariffs can be good and everything, and We can go for those points again. You can debate me on them if you would like. And Polonium, who isn't a professional debater, to be fair, we can go through it together.
I don't think anyone here is.
He did post several sources, and I wanted to go.
I read his sources better than he did, and to a greater extent than he did.
That's great. I'm not worried about what he did. I'm worried about how I read them. And
if you're not worried about like what he did, then why are you even talking about it?
Because I'm asking if you would like to debate me on this topic, not Polonium.
Sure. I mean, I'll make the pro case. I think that tariffs are a reasonable intervention to control economic risk. I think they have historical precedent, and I think that they are definitely within the scope of the government, and the government has a compelling interest in controlling risk.
Sure. I'm going to say the last part. I'm going to concede that I definitely think they are in the realm of government, and they are under the government.
Narrow the thing. I think that tariffs are a reasonable and effective risk mitigating strategy for a government to take in anticipation of trade war.
So number one there, right? Actually what you just said. So let's just do this. Mitigation risk. Don't you think that, implying tariffs, especially announcing that you're going to go for tariffs beforehand, can elevate the tension in the negotiation phase and also cause fear and panic among allies and other nations that can lead to a trade war, right? If Britain hears about we're going to raise tariffs and Britain's like, whoa, the United States is about to raise tariffs, why don't we preemptively raise tariffs so that we can get ahead? Because that's how tariffs work. You wanted the first person to raise the tariffs gets the most benefit from them.
Yeah,
right? So Britain goes ahead and raises their tariff.
Do you actually think that? Do you actually believe what you're saying?
That is the case. Do you want me to go through the data of why the first person to raise the tariffs?
Let me respond. The reason why I don't think you believe that is the only countries that are going to just randomly surprise other countries with a tariff are those who are enemies or not on good terms. It seems like having a long period of dialogue and being transparent is something you'd expect not from enemies but from allies.
I disagree.
And also furthermore, the purpose of tariffs is not to ease tensions. It's to reduce American dependence on external countries.
I understand that,
which reduces our robustness as an economy.
You talked about
what I'm telling you is that imposing tariffs will. Hold on, let me finish. I let you speak. You can let me speak. I let you speak. You can let me speak. I let you speak. Let me speak. Again, imposing tariffs will hurt our relationships with other countries, and in fact, doing it the way that we're doing it may do it even more. But even if it were the case that Trump was doing it in the most grandiose, aggravating way possible, it would still have the effect that I'm claiming. And so, insofar as my thesis that it's a reasonable, risk mitigating approach for government, this is just completely irrelevant. It doesn't connect at all.
How can it be risk mitigating if it raises tensions? If you raise tensions, which tariffs and trade wars have led to real wars. Gun shooting,
when I say risk, I'm talking about a very particular risk. It's an economic risk.
You're going to let me speak, right?
Well, you asked me a question. I answered. You asked me
you
so I answered it.
In there too, and when I went to go answer
No, I didn't. I waited for asking a question in the middle. What did I ask you? What was the question?
You said, what do you think? You said literally, what do you think would happen? And you don't really believe that, do you?
I never said that. I never asked you what do you think would happen.
Yes, you did. You asked that, and you also
if you're gonna gaslight me, you gotta show the tapes. I'm sorry, I never said that.
Questioning tone. You also asked in a questioning tone.
I can repeat.
You don't really believe that, do you? And when I went to go answer that, and I said yes, I do. And when I went to go answer that, you said I was interrupting you. So are you going to let me finish what I'm saying? Okay. So if we are going through tariffs and we're going through these pieces, we know that trade wars can lead to actual real shooting wars. So I don't think that's a mitigation of risk. I think that's a risk factor. A tariff and a trade war literally becomes a risk factor and pushes us more towards conflict and the threat of these nations. It puts threats of nations economically at risk because, for instance, tariffs, if you're going to raise them, the reason why certain countries, even allies, would want to preemptively raise tariffs is, for instance, Britain needs imports. If they get tariffs, they need to have enough money to cover their tariffs beforehand because Britain imports all of their goods, basically. Food, clothing, a lot of, actually...
Yeah, this is kind of non-responsive. Can I cut you off?
I'm not finished.
You're going on a narrative.
No, you may not.
You're going on a narrative, though, just for the record.
That's great. I'm going to talk about Britain. This is...
your burden is to demonstrate that it is risky, economically speaking.
I am doing that.
Well, actually, it's not even your burden, right? It's actually my time to speak. You just wanted to yap. You asked me about what I said, and then you continued to yap.
Okay, stop.
I mean, the speaking time should be equalized. This is disrespectful.
You talked longer than I had so far.
That's absolutely not correct.
Yes, it is.
And you've also lied about what I said, tried to gaslight me.
I haven't talked to a full minute yet.
Okay,
no,
hold
actually,
up.
and also
We're gonna stop.
If anything, me being here is more of a grace to you than you being here is a grace to me, so I don't care.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we're gonna start from ground zero again.
Okay, can I finish my statement?
I was talking about
let's make sure to clarify. So I'll let you finish your point, but I want this repeated so that way it's fair on both sides.
But I have the pro case. He should. That's not his case. What are you doing?
That's what I'm saying is that you should go.
Oh yeah.
You should go first, so that way you can re-clarify, and then he can argue against it, because it seems like you both have a miscommunication.
Yeah, I mean, I think that tariffs are a reasonable strategy to mitigate a particular type of economic risk, namely the risk induced by trade dependence. That's my claim. All of this thing about country relations is just irrelevant.
No, it is not irrelevant.
Do you disagree that tariffs can reduce a country's dependence on imports, thereby reducing the risk on trade war?
They might, but...
They might? Wait, so you don't even disagree with my claim, and yet you're yapping? That's embarrassing.
I didn't say I agreed with it either.
Do you disagree with anything I just said?
I do have disagreement with what you just said.
Wait, what do you disagree with?
So, I disagree with that it is a mitigating risk factor, and I am going to go through in detail of why.
But you just said it might. Like, you think it's not, but it might be? Like, you're so confused. Let me clarify. I think you forgot. My claim is just that insofar as this risk of trade, it seems like tariffs reduce the dependence and thereby reduce the risk of it.
Hold up. You made a claim, and then David has not even been able to respond. So I would like David to be able to have a response.
I think you're being a bit too heavy-handed, but sure.
It seems like they don't want me to have a response. They already know my response will destroy what they just said. What interesting.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I'm actually clever.
If we're going through United States and we're going through tariffs and things, I was bringing up the example of burden, for instance, because when it comes to relations with burden, for instance, that's our exports. Making goods domestically in the United States. They're an import country. We're
you just ramble. It's insufferable. I don't know if I want to be here.
Excuse me, still not finished?
No, just make your claim and then provide evidence. Don't provide evidence before your claim. It's so hard.
I'm making my claim. That's great.
No one wants to follow you.
You're
insufferable.
That's wonderful. You can get over that.
You're so inarticulate.
Stop with the ad homs right now.
Talking about burden.
Dude, I've been keeping my responses very short, single sentences to the point. This dude just rambles.
You have
not. Are you drunk, David? Wait, I think you are.
Hold up.
Man, this is great. Personal insults. I love this.
So when it comes to people, and when it comes to responding, you can't make a response on the economy in like 15 seconds. That's just not how it works. So you can make your claim like a sentence or two, but if he wants to articulate it, it's going to take him to... Okay, they just deafened anyway. Let's unmute them and then they'll...
No, I mean, I think there should be proportionality, right? Yeah, if I give a one-sentence response, you should give a one-sentence response. You shouldn't be giving 10-minute responses to my single question. That's just irresponsible. And also, my question was a yes or no question, so the fact that he's going on like a 2-minute ramble is just inexcusable. He just yaps. He's fluent in Japanese. He's inarticulate. He's poorly spoken. He doesn't think well.
I'm telling you the reason why it is a risk factor, and I am going to go into detail of why. And to go into detail,
my claim is not that it's a risk factor in general, but that it's a risk factor for a particular thing. You don't even understand my claim. You just misstated my entire thesis. Just stop. Let me clarify. No, I have the pro case. Let me clarify.
You aren't letting me respond, and it's funny.
You're responding to a straw man. I never said that. Let me clarify my position. Holy shit! You just misstated my position, and now you're going to respond to that straw man. You're so confused.
I haven't dismayed your statement at all. You said it is a economic risk. It
or the particular risk of a trade war
when it comes to trade. When it comes to trade war,
insofar as there's a reduced dependency. Actually, let me just clarify. Hold on, dude, stop. Dude, stop. I've been very respectful. I've been arguing a position that I don't even agree with. I've been here despite that. The fact that everyone here is stupid.
I love how they are scared of my response.
I don't know, dude. Just stop. Just stop.
Okay. So we're gonna try this one more time. And if you guys both fail to actually be able to argue with each other instead of throwing ad homs, so we're not going to be doing ad homs anymore. No, interrupting a person mid-response. If you need to clarify something, say it after they're done speaking, so we actually have some cohesive listening shit. It's unbearable. Since you have the pro case again, Radefi, I'll let you go again.
Right, so this is a yes or no question. The response I expect is a yes or a no and nothing else, and then I'll ask a follow-up. If I hear anything else, I'm going to leave the call. You would agree that a country that has incredible dependence on external nations is at a greater risk of those nations, removing that trade than one that has zero dependence on another nation. In fact, I'll make it simpler. A country that has zero dependence on external nations, that is completely self-sufficient, is not really at risk of trade wars harming it that much at all economically. You would agree, correct?
No.
Okay. Why?
Okay. So countries that are completely self-sufficient probably get money and resources for other things that are not directly growth economy. So whether it's military.
What? No, that's not what I meant. Let me clarify terms. When I said self-sufficient, I did not mean that.
Didn't get a response.
No, you misunderstood. When I said self-sufficient, that's not what I meant. You misunderstood what I said. Let me make it even more simple.
Do you want me to give you a definition?
No, I don't care. No, I'm the one who used the term. I get to define it. Come on, dude. I don't care what you think the term means. I can just use a different word. Imagine you have a country that's entirely an island nation. It's like the country from Attack on Titan. They have no external communication. They don't know the external world even exists. This country is super insular, And so the goings of other countries around it just don't matter. Surely you would agree.
No, I totally disagree. As a matter of fact,
You
I'll give
disagree
you
that
a
the country
historical
from Attack on Titan is greatly impacted by countries that it doesn't even know exists, and they don't even know that it exists? Like, you think that the people on Pluto, if they do, like, suppose there were people on the middle of Pluto, like inside inside of Pluto, and they had a society. Do you think that their economic activity would be impactful to like us? Like, are you crazy?
Yeah, I do.
I just think you're bad faith. Like, you don't believe this, do you?
I will give you a historical.
You believe that like the people like 3 million light years away are
respond. I still can't respond.
Stop cutting him off. Okay, like, yes, you got to explain your point, but he can respond as well. You can't just like go like, well, do you actually think this and you actually think this? Like, don't jump the gun. Okay, just let him finish.
I think
his
Neil
point.
has some opinions on how arguments work. I think you should invite him up and have him give his point, because I think he has some interesting things to say.
Okay, so here we go. If you want a historical example of how that,
It was a yes or no question, by the way.
I already said no to your question, and now I'm explaining why I said no.
What was my question that I just asked you 5 seconds ago?
I don't care about that question. I'm going with the previous question.
You don't care about that question. You're just gonna ignore it.
Responding to. I didn't get to finish responding to your previous question.
No, it was a yes or no question. You responded no. So like, there's no further. Like, to be clear,
no. But
suppose there was someone 3 million light years away, and they have their society.
Why I said
do the goings and doings of that society affect us?
Polonium,
No, you may not respond. No, you may not respond.
Okay.
So I saw him be able to respond.
Okay. I'm saying this
You're very
because
scared of my response.
Because here's the thing, you are not letting him respond to the claims that you've. Okay, they're gonna just deafen. We'll just let them mute. Let's just see how long they can stay mute.
I don't think they're mature enough to have this conversation. So
I'm not. We're not gonna sit here. Like, I understand there's a lot of emotion, but like, Redefi, come on. Like, you can't just do this whatever you're doing. I'm giving you a lot of leeway here.
I thought you said no ad homs, and then your like buddy boy here is like, oh, you're not mature enough for the discussion. Like, come on, dude.
You're showing him maturity.
I mean, okay, if you want to further the debate, you don't go engaging in ad hom with an ad hom. You just move on with it because you both have been doing.
Wait, how is it an ad hom? I'm just pointing out behavior that I don't like. That's not an ad hom. I don't like that he is. He's actually being kind of curt. It's not respectful. Like, the fact that I'm here is I can do so many better things. Like, this dude is like, I don't know. But
I asked you if you would like to debate me, but you said yes. I have not been able to debate you because I've not been able to.
The reason why your responses are narratives and they aren't, it doesn't matter, is because I'm asking yes or no questions. If I haven't asked to why, you don't need to go on.
You actually did ask why.
This is a yes or
no.
So listen, I need to clarify something. This entire conversation has been recorded and it's likely going to be uploaded to YouTube. I don't know if you saw that, Redefi, but I will have the clip of you cutting him off and interrupting him multiple times because he didn't even get to get a sentence out. He didn't even get to get a sentence out.
Yeah, I mean, here's another yes or no question.
You also asked why question?
No, dude, stop interrupting me. I'll let you speak. You can now let me speak. Stop.
I'm just going to clarify that.
This is another yes or no question. The question is, if there were people 3 million light years away, they had their own human society just like us, do you think their economic doings would affect us in any way at all?
I don't know, because that scenario is so outside the norm and history.
Oh, you don't engage with hypotheticals?
Today. I don't know what the effects would be. I don't know if our economic activity on Earth is affecting civilizations far, far away. It could be. We are sending radio waves out.
I can prove it isn't.
It could affect some.
It's called like
because you don't have another alien.
I can't prove it. No, I can't prove it. It's because it's called the speed of light.
Please tell me what alien light forms. Please tell me what alien light forms.
It's called the speed of light.
Excuse me. Let me ask you a question here.
Well, you asked me to explain it, and then you didn't let me explain. It's called the speed of light. No, I don't care. It's called the speed of light. Like, essentially.
Alien light forms.
Well, no. I mean, I asked him yes or no, and he asked me an open-ended question, so I'm going to actually have an ability to respond because it's open-ended.
You know what?
But like, to be clear, like, the reason why we know that the aliens can't affect us if they're 3 million light years away is because of the speed of light, right? For all of human society.
Okay. Stop this. Stop arguing. I think, here's the thing. I think you both have a lot of emotion going on, and I think you both have a lot of ideas in your head, and I think that you're not applying them properly into the actual chat, and that you both need to be able to articulate and go one at a time, no cutting off. Next person to get cut off, it's just, this debate's over. So next person cutting off another person, if you, like you said, Redefi, Warlord, if you want to articulate something, if you want to say something or clarify what you said, say it after they're done making their point. I understand how that might be a waste of time for some people, but hey, it's just debating. We want to be fair, and we want to create a civil environment for both people.
Okay.
Polonium, they asked me an open-ended question, and I'm pro. I don't know what's going on.
I have a yes for no question for you.
Why? You asked me a prior question. I wasn't done responding. You cut me off. Can I finish? Like, holy shit.
I had a yes or no question.
The reason why we can't communicate to these aliens is because of the speed of light. Like, there's no possible way that any human society going back 10,000, 100,000, a million years ago would have ever communicated with these people, because the speed of light just wouldn't bridge that gap in that time. So we can actually be 100% confident there would be zero effect. And so then I just don't get it. Like, that you think that this Attack on Titan civilization, this island nation, would be very affected by like the doings in Madagascar. But
So,
why? They have like no communication. There's like no at all connection. Dude, let me finish. There's no connection. It just baffles the mind. And the fact that you won't even agree that like a completely insular nation is less dependent on other countries just tells me that you are completely full of shit and you don't even know what's going on. And the fact that you keep on interrupting me is just like so disrespectful. Whoever did that is based in a Sigma, and I'll give them a high five.
What?
Okay, so would you like me to respond to why? Because you asked why there in that conversation. Would you like me to explain why I have my opinion?
Why what?
Also, by the way,
wait, why what?
You asked why do, because I said yes it would.
No,
and said,
why
do you think that?
I never said that. I never said that. I never said that.
Okay.
People watching the video, go check the tapes. I never said that.
You never said why? You never said why this entire conversation?
Are you asking if I've ever used the word why in this conversation? Are you seriously asking that?
Yeah, I am.
I think you know the answer to that. But insofar as the claim you just made,
I think the answer would be yes.
That I asked you 5 seconds. You told me. Your claim is that I asked you, why did you say that? I never did that. Have I used the word why ever? Yes. In fact, it's a popular word. I use this word a lot. I like the word why. It's a cool word. It's 3 letters. It's very short, very cool, very useful. But no, I never asked you that.
I believe that.
I never asked you that. I never asked you that.
Isolated Titan nation.
Dude, you just make up shit. You're gaslighting.
Other nations. Why would the other nations?
Get someone else in this call.
Wait, holy shit. Holy shit. So I'm gonna end this discussion in 5 minutes, and that's that.
I haven't been able to respond to anything. You know.
No, I know. It's just gish galloping.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not able to respond, then I guess they're too fair to my response. It's cool.
I mean, you got like 2 words out, to be fair, and then didn't even get to respond after. David, how could you? How could you? You weren't responding good enough.
Like, I know, right?
David's not responding good enough, guys.
Mind you, they have not answered my yes or no question about alien species. Okay, so yes or no.
Okay, this is a horrible response.
Right? I would like to know the alien civilization that they know. They're deafened, by the way. I don't know if they're coming back. We can end this in.
I'll end it in 5 minutes, and if they want to come back or they don't want to come back, that's their choice. So we can sit here and have a conversation. I'll let Neil come up here.
Neil's right there. We can let Neil come up. Yo, what up, Neil?
Neil.
So the answer to their first question is no, faster light travel or wormhole travel, and the answer to the other question is no, because they can do things to affect the environment. So they were wrong on both accounts. All right, There you go. I proved them wrong.
Thank you.
Wait, you don't believe in the speed of light? You're such a Sigma. You're such a trend breaker, trendsetter, Neil. You know what? You were Neil touched deGrasse Tyson, but now you're just like, you subsumed the other Neil's role. Because you know better than the speed of light, gamer. You don't even need the speed of light, because you yourself are transcendent. You might even be God. I think Neil, I think you are God. I think you're like Haruhi. I don't know. It's very impressive.
Rafa?
No, I mean he just says I don't like the speed of light, and then it ceases to exist. It's over.
You know what's interesting?
He is actually a god unto the universe itself.
The real Neil deGrasse Tyson made this wonderful video where he talked about wormholes and how we could travel by bending space so the place of space is actually closer to us. Not to mention, again, our trash in over 1,000 years, it might hit a planet or change the directory of a rock or something and then kill some poor civilization miles away.
It's funny because like you can just make the distance arbitrarily large, like a billion light years, a trillion light years. Like it need not matter.
Totally. So it still affects it. I'm glad we agree that they.
No, it doesn't. In fact, the reason why we have the concept of an observable universe is that there is this limit to our observation beyond which we will never be able to see.
But does not mean that we're not affecting things beyond it.
Society in the unobservable universe cannot affect us at all, because from the beginning of time until now, they will never interact with us ever. They're completely. There's no causal connection between us. We are like causally isolated.
Okay, I have a question for you, right? So if I send a rock out into space, that rock then goes on a trajectory. And remember, in space, the trajectory never stops. It is infinite propulsion.
No. It's called inertia. To be clear, it likely would stop. But suppose it didn't.
Right, but I have an answer to that.
Neil, why are you cutting over Warlord David? He had a very interesting hypothetical, and now you're just stealing his thunder. That's so disrespectful. I think you need to pipe down.
Are you?
The universe is toroid in nature.
No, I don't care. Neil, we don't care. You need to stop
Right?
cutting people off. You need to learn some decorum.
Neil,
You're so disrespectful. I can't stand it.
You can be catty and devious all you want. I can prove you
Neil,
wrong.
you can call me names, but like ultimately, David was making an interesting point about a rock, and then you just came in and you just barreled in like that rock into this conversation.
Observations here.
Dude, what are you doing? I don't care. No one cares. No one asked. Find me one person who asked.
You wouldn't care. You wouldn't be saying anything. But apparently you do care.
But you're in the conversation, and so I need to say something. But like, I wanted to hear David's acknowledging about the rock. I thought that was very fascinating. I care about rocks too.
Polonium, are you there?
Yeah.
It's been that time. I'm going to. Can I mute Raffle now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Cool.
It's your choice.
Yeah. Well. So. When we're going through space and rocks or whatever, Neil, I think would be interesting. Yeah, I know. I don't care. I'm gonna let Antos come up here. I'm just gonna invite people at this point, and we're just gonna chill up here.
Chill.
Wait, hold on. Actually, can Raffle actually come off? I think mute really quickly because I have one question because I feel like I know where this community this person specifically comes from.
I don't know if they're going to undeafen themselves or when they're going to undeafen themselves.
I don't know. I don't think this is very on top of you.
There you go.
Yeah, I was curious. Do you partake in a lot of like the power scaling servers or whatever community at all? Or...
No.
Okay, never mind.
Do you?
Not really. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of frustrating though. I don't know if you've been here for much of this conversation, but like, I feel like I can't ask simple yes or no's without getting long, belabored narratives.
Well, that's kind of the thing. Like the questions that you're asking, I feel like are kind of need that sort of thing, right?
Really?
Like either a little, like I don't.
Like,
I mean,
like
Defi, if I 1 second, hold up. If I ask you,
hear this guy,
I don't think he's relevant. But what I was gonna say is,
I'm not.
No, I mean we're gonna leave soon. So just I want to get his thoughts. Like, can you let Antos
go ahead? Whatever.
Okay, but yeah, it's like for that particular thing, like I feel like for the most part, you kind of have been like cutting a lot of people off. I feel like David's tried to respond multiple times in like a fairly reasonable and concise way, but he hasn't really gotten a chance to even get like.
You really have that impression?
Genuinely, I think just about a lot of people on this call has that impression.
I don't know. My impression is just I think I won't say, but just I ask simple yes or no's, and I get like listen. What I really want is like yes, no, and then explanation. What I'm getting is explanation, unrelated points, tangents, and then never a yes or a no.
Isn't that literally what happened with the whole entire?
What would make it a million times better is if people would just make their claim and then provide evidence.
Hey, Defi,
evidence first.
If I ask you, explain the past real GDP history of fucking Luxembourg from the past 50 years, can you articulate that in 3 sentences or like even 3 words before you cut a person off?
That would be a stupid ass question for me to ask, and certainly none of the questions I've done.
So you're not even engaging with the question. This is
I do like when I said no to a question.
I think even Antos would agree that was a reasonable engagement. Come on.
I was never but I
think so.
said no to a question, and then I never got to get the explanation of why I said no. You even said, "Why did you say no?" And I never got to tell you why.
I was asking you to yap at that point, and I let you.
No, you didn't. I didn't.
Not really. That's the thing. You didn't even let him respond.
All right, we're gonna end this debate now. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, good debate.
I hope you enjoyed that debate. Like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, if you want to put your 2 cents in, join the server, link down below. And for now, that's all. See you later.